Right, so how do you do what you plan to do? And not just that, but actually stick to it and then stay consistent with it forever. My name is Zain Asif. I'm a fourth year medical student, and look, I've been juggling medical school, part-time jobs, YouTube, this business almost perfectly for over a year now. And that sounds insane, but I didn't just magically figure out how to do it. I fell off like a lot. But here's what I learned. There is a way to actually do what you plan to do, stay on track, and easily bounce back when you fall behind. And all of it starts with building the perfect week. The ideal week. That is the exercise that I do time and time again. Every single new season of my life starts with me creating an ideal week. Because you cannot just create good habits and build systems that help you stay consistent with a good study routine if you don't have a rock solid default blueprint to come back to. So rather than giving you the advice that you probably hear in every single motivational Instagram reel that you watch, I'm just gonna tell you the truth. I was scared before the fourth year of medical school. Hospital placements are all over the place, they're tough, the studying is gonna be intense. YouTube's growing, it's doing well. I'm now managing editors, I'm coaching people, there's an email newsletter. I'm planning to make a course that I wanna make really good. It's a lot, and I can't let my studying or anything else take a nosedive. So on my 7-hour layover back to Manchester when I was on the way to uni 2 weeks ago, I sat down and planned every single thing that I'd want to do during an ideal week of university. First, on this page, I wrote down all the big tasks that I would have per week in the semester. I'm literally gonna show you. It's honestly very rough. It's the new topics that we have to learn per week. It's the old topics that I want to review, the questions I have to do. It's the writing, the filming, the managing for all the videos, the newsletter, the website making. All of it is on this list. And the thing is, I didn't even know what my med school timetable was before I made this list, but this is the first step that anyone needs to do. Simply write down all the tasks that you want to be able to do in an ideal week. Right now, every single main important thing that's related to your goals. Regardless of what you're doing, even if you're just attending classes, studying for all of your subjects in an efficient way, going gym, staying on top of all of it, it's still a significant amount of work. And if you don't know what your aims are, at least vaguely, then how do you expect to even start working towards them? Next, step 2, I roughly figured out how long each of these tasks will take. This is where you have to figure out how long the specific studying that you want to do, that you want to accomplish will take throughout the week. So for me, I did it, I'm quite quick with my studying on the weekly basis, so I realized I could make the mind maps of all the new topics and learn them in 6 to 8 hours. I could probably do the older topics and review them with questions, etc. It still takes me, that active process still takes me a bit more time, so that would probably take around 8 to 12 hours. The writing, the filming, etc. would take, for a video, would take 15 to 16 hours, and then the rest, as you can see. Again, I didn't put the hours down for every single task that I have on there because I wanted to start with the minimums, the non-negotiables that I really want to get done in the week, because there's a lot of stuff here that I added on just for the sake of it as well. And then lastly, step 3 is after writing this list down, planning the hours a little bit, figuring out what my ideal week will look like. When will I do medicine? When will I do YouTube? When will I do certain things? Will I have separate days for each of them? Will I combine them? This is now where I tried to come up with a vague idea. So I asked the question, should I do them on both days? Should I do them in either one? And then I tried to make a general plan of when I would do each thing, each one of these main tasks. So then I tried to do it by doing it in a day-by-day calendar, but again, it didn't make a lot of sense. So I revised it again, and this calendar, this revised version, actually made sense. I did a day-by-day plan, roughly wrote my main hour slots of the day. And to be honest, it's a solid schedule. There's spaces for gym on here. There's spaces in the evenings where I'm free. The weekends are relatively empty, so I can fill those up with catch-up time. But again, of course, this is just a vague plan that I made to get started. I didn't even know my timetable yet. And of course, not every one of my days is going to be split up into this nice 9 to 1, 2 to 6 p.m. timetable. And to be honest, 2 weeks in, my current schedule looks very different. But this is an important first step right now, because to feel accomplished, apparently I need to do this amount of stuff. Whereas I've now seen that I have this much time in the week that's free. And then I will probably end up accomplishing this much amount. It's a super simple, eye-opening activity that takes everything out of your head and puts it on paper. All it takes is 30 minutes. But no one does it. It's so simple. Even the medical students that I'm friends with don't bother with this stuff. People just go with the flow, and that is a recipe for just floating around, ending up just doing the bare minimum, not having direction, relying on your mood to work, and then just having to cram for the exams when it comes to the time. So honestly, go right now and plan your ideal week in whatever way you want to, and just give yourself that direction. Even though I've planned it all out on paper, because I feel like that bullet journaling way of doing this is really nice, an app that I would really recommend that you guys try out if you do prefer the more bullet journaling style of notes, of planning things, of organizing things, is Xstyles. They brand themselves as a sort of crossover between Notion and Miro, but I just feel like it's a crossover between Notion and bullet journaling. And compared to Notion, I do kind of prefer the flexibility and neatness of it. Of course, Notion does have a lot of customization features, etc., but simultaneously, it's a pretty technical layout for beginners. I mean, I personally love using Notion. I use it a lot. I've spent thousands of hours on it, so it's easy for me to use. But if you're someone that finds it difficult, then I would definitely suggest checking Xstyles out. As you can see, it's pretty smooth and joyful to work with. The two main concepts here with Xstyles are canvases and tiles, hence the name. Similar to pages and blocks, if we add, a new blank page, you can see the canvases. It's quite similar with the whole grid system, but when you draw it, it can be any shape, any size. It doesn't have to be like put anywhere. You can reposition the boxes how you want, the tiles how you want. I think this is a lot more intuitive than any other note-taking app there is. It takes a lot less, technical know-how to use this super well, and I can definitely appreciate that. So you can make each type of block here different. Task-based, table, image, nested pages. And if you're familiar with databases, they have a bunch here. Gallery view, board view. A feature that I really like is their universal calendar, which isn't like super crazy, but it's missing from every free application that is out there almost. I do use Google Calendar, as I'll show you guys in a bit, and even though it's synced in, it's just such a hassle, and it takes so much of the time to set Google Calendar up. But with Xstyles, if you had a task on your homepage, let's give this a due date. Let's give another task a due date as well on the other page. You can go into the calendar, and even though it's part of different tiles, different pages, all of these tasks can show up on the same calendar. They show up on the same task page as well. Oh my, yeah. It's just super helpful with organizing. And to be honest, I'd even recommend that you create the ideal week on here. Organize your school, your work, all of your life on here. It just simplifies everything if you're someone that's not into the complicated nature of other applications. Like, this is just a very easy app to start with. So if you want to give this a spin, just create a free account on Xstyles using the link in my description. Again, link in my description, and let me know what you think. Anyways, you've created this ideal week. You've given yourself some direction. You've given yourself an idea of what you'd want your weeks to look like. But that isn't the end all be all. This ideal week doesn't really have any specific tasks on there. It just says vague words. At least for me, it says vague words like placement and old medicine and web and course. And so you can't really follow it day to day. It's some ideal that is kind of far away and generalized from our life. But let's build towards it. Start by simply planning out what your next week will look like. By planning what every week will look like before it starts. That is the key with creating a good, solid study routine and sticking with it. Because the only way you maintain motivation and stay consistent is if you already have these good organizational systems, these ways to organize your life built in place so that when you eventually do lose the consistency, you can come back to them. And the way you start to make this system to organize your life is very simple again. Open up your notes app, Xstyles, whatever you want, and write down, think about next week and write down every single task that you want to accomplish during that next week. This is different from that ideal week. It's specifically for the week that's coming. For me, I've done this on my phone. I'll put it up somewhere. I've divided it up into medical school, YouTube, other related projects. For you, this could be divided up into your subjects, your clubs, anything that needs weekly effort. But be smart with this, don't overload it. Once that's done, go on Google Calendar. And I don't care if you don't use calendar, stop being a baby. I'm not asking you to plan every single second of your life and plan it exactly with the grooves of your existence or something. I'm just asking you to go on a calendar, Apple Calendar, Google Calendar, and whatever, and then just listen to how I normally do it. Because creating a calendar and then using it as a guide for my week, for my day, has been one of the most beneficial things to help me maintain consistency, to help me maintain motivation. And if it isn't working for you, then you aren't using it right. Because I know I was there, I was making the same excuses like, oh, calendars are too hectic, I don't want to time block every single second of my life, it leaves out spontaneity, and excuses. Point is, I was making the same mistakes, and I'll address them in a second. But first, let me show you how I'd use the calendar for my next week. Let's just do it now. As you can see, number one, you add in all the mandatory classes and things that are scheduled in first. That first layer of my calendar is already there. All of the general practice clinics, the pre-planned sessions I have, all of them are in purple. I can't change those hours, but it's very important to have them on there to visualize and see how much time you actually have outside of them. Then number two, very simple. Use your weekly list, the task list that you just made, hopefully, and put all of the important tasks from there on this calendar. Just throw them on there. Put them vaguely on what day you want to do them. This is just so you can see where everything is going. Actually, let me do it side by side as well. I'll get it done now. And boom. Done. They're not planned hour by hour because that's a waste of time to do right now. I put the studying for newer topics nearer to the actual discussion for those cases on Friday. I added the YouTube scripting and writing, etc. in the days before, just vaguely planning what's going to happen when. And that's it. It's not a difficult step. It's so quick and easy to do. I don't actually specifically plan what's exactly happening in my day until a night or two before, because there's no point. I end up moving so much off track that even if I plan like 3 days in advance, it's useless for me. And by the way, that's the next step to organize your week. You plan the night before or during any break of the day. You plan out the next day's tasks properly, hour by hour, time block it all out just for the next day or two. No more than that. See, I'm gonna do it for Monday now. If you did the previous step of throwing the tasks on here, you can basically just stretch them out and slot them in the gaps. If not, you have your weekly task list right directly next to you, so you can just use that to help guide you. The point of this is that as soon as you wake up, as soon as you start to need to do work, you immediately know what you need to be doing. There's no, maybe I should do math, or maybe I'll have the homework as well, or should I answer emails, or should I do this or that? No, because when you don't know what to do, and this happens to me, I just end up checking my phone or going on YouTube and end up accomplishing a third of what I would have if I had a little bit of direction. And importantly, what I want to keep emphasizing is that I only use this calendar as a guide. It's telling me, yeah bro, listen, you've planned all of this for yourself the night before. You should probably get it done, otherwise the rest of the week will get crunched. Just come on, help future you out. And the thing is, I almost never stick to these times perfectly. But giving myself this structure, even if it's vague, helps me get done 80 to 90% of what I've planned the night before, compared to the usual 20% that I would be doing if I didn't do any planning at all. Simply because if there was nothing telling me what to do, there is too many options and there's no baseline for me to go back to. So I'm confused. As you can see, by the way, I just want to add a few more tips. I've left gaps. I've accounted for the transport, the task switching times as well. I only learned what gaps to leave and how to make this realistic after years of seeing what's worked, how much time I need, how much time things take me, what takes me longer than most people, what am I faster at than most people. So don't deep it if you haven't stuck to it perfectly. Just try and do your best, switch things around during your day. When a big issue I had initially was that I always forgot that I had this calendar. I forgot to check it on my laptop. I forgot to go on the Google calendar app on my phone. So a solution I found to that is just making this a widget on your phone and actually just downloading it on your laptop or putting it as a screenshot somewhere. We're on these devices 24/7, might as well take advantage. Anyways, overall, I waffled. My point is, planning your week this way will just give you direction. It is there for you, so that when you start to go on your phone randomly, when you fall back into the same stupid habit loops, at least you'll have something in the back of your head telling you, bro, you've made this for yourself literally the night before. It's for you. You've planned it for yourself, so probably just do it, you know? Do some bits. It's telling you we gotta make it happen for you. But at the end of the day, you can plan it perfectly. You can do every single step perfectly. You can keep going for weeks. You can get disciplined at it. You'll feel amazing. But all of a sudden, there'll be some added pressure. There'll be some change, especially for our students. There's always something that's added on that changes the game somehow. And then you fall off the calendar, especially for me at least. I always end up falling off it for a couple weeks and then getting back on. I don't update it, the motivation levels fall, and I don't stick to it. And the tasks I was doing so easily, I just lose momentum with. And the thing is, there is no way to avoid this. It will happen. There is no perfect tip that I can give you to be consistent forever without any of these pitfalls. But the truth is, it isn't about falling off. It's how quickly you can realize that you're falling off and then pivot into something better. I know it's tough, but when you hit rock bottom, I want you to forget what past you has done, minimize guilt, and move forward. People beat themselves up too much, and that causes even more stress, and it just messes you up. So what is the best move you can make right now? Because honestly, I don't have control over what Zayn did from a few hours ago, or what Zayn will be doing 3 days from now. What I do have control over, what present me right now, the Zayn that's speaking to you, is doing. That is what I have full control over. So why not change right now and make the best out of it? I'm mentioning this because I think it's a very useful frame to have when you aren't consistent, when you see yourself falling off. I always come back to this thought. Current me is the person that can only change anything. I can't control the future me, I can't control the past me. The current me is the only one that can change things. But let me also give you some practical steps for eventually when you do fall off and when you get less consistent, etc. Because this literally happened to me in June. After my exams finished, there was a week where I did not feel like doing anything. I was in bed half the day, and yeah, I was getting my minimums done. It's not hard to keep on top of med school like just on its own and create a video here and there. I wasn't pushing forward like I usually do. I still don't understand honestly what happened. I stopped caring about the work. Maybe it was burnout, but it just lasted a week. But what I do know very clearly is that staying home is never a solution for me. I don't know about everyone else that's watching, but my brain is fully trained to just relax when I'm home. I don't do any work at all when I'm at home sitting on my desk even, especially when I'm unmotivated. I remember so clearly how overstimulated I was and how overwhelmed I was. Like where do I even start is what my question was. How do I go back to my old self like a week ago? So the very first move that I will always now make, and that I really suggest people make as well, is number one, to change your environment. I woke up, had a nice breakfast, went to the gym, and then went to a coffee place. And on the walk there, number two, I recalibrated. Recalibration is you reminding yourself of what your 2 or 3 biggest milestones are. What are the big missions that you want to be working towards? Because again, no one really thinks about their milestones. People think, who am I to have such big aims or whatever? Or I can't be asked to actually think about it. It's kind of overwhelming. But I don't care. Our community, I can see in the comments and the emails, everyone that is involved is ahead of the game. We are all ambitious. And I don't care if it makes you uncomfortable, you have to think about your 2 or 3 big milestones that you want to be working towards. And be ambitious with them. The milestones can be a specific university, a specific grade you want to achieve, some muscle that you want to put on, growing in size with a project you're doing or in profit with your business. It won't really feel easy to think about these because you haven't really done shit to actually work towards them for a while. But honestly, if you're watching this far, you're a smart, motivated individual. You know your milestones at least vaguely, and that's all you need right now. And to get out of your rut or whatever motivation lack you're stuck in, all you need to do is change your environment and choose 2 milestones that you want to work towards and write them down in your notes app. What they are, how much work they require you to do, and what specific goals are within them as well. This can also kind of be a first step that you do with the ideal week. It makes a lot more sense to have the milestones and then from that write down the tasks of the week. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it's just thinking of these 2 milestones pulls you out of whatever like overwhelmed, overstimulated thought process that you're in. It gives you direction and focuses your monkey brain on what you actually want to be doing. But write it down, by the way. It needs to be on notes or on paper or on some app. Now, the second part, when you've changed your environment and you've done the milestone choosing, the second part that I find, instead of planning even more right now, what I find best is actually just jumping straight into the tasks. I find it most useful to right now, when you're just coming out of it, to give yourself confidence by getting straight into a work session about what you find easiest to do right now. I was at that coffee place that day, so I ended up just picking 2 topics from medicine at random, and I started to prime them. I started to do mind maps for them, learn them, do questions. I did a normal study session for me. I got back in the flow. In that same sitting, I also then wrote a full script and planned out a video. It just took 2 hours. All I did was just remove the barriers immediately of what to do, where to start, how to begin, and just get focused on the tasks, get in the flow. And the main thing that this achieves is that it reminds you that the tasks that you're doing are fun. You're the one choosing how you're gonna study, you're strategizing how you're gonna learn this thing, how you're gonna learn for the whole subject, and it's your process. At the end of the day, it hits you that this is in my control, and that gives you autonomy. And autonomy is one of the strongest things, the strongest factors that allows you to actually enjoy the work that you're doing. I read that in one of Daniel Pink's books, and I made a full guide about how to enjoy studying, etc. from those books, from my experience as well in enjoying studying over the last few years. Check that video out, it's a full guide. I also think that would be really helpful for the people that are watching this video. Anyways, doing those tasks straight after, just not planning and just not thinking and doing those tasks, finding the autonomy is one of the things that will most help you. And now, the last bit of this getting back into the flow is when you've had the successful day, now is the time that you actually take to plan. Do the weekly task list, create the weekly task list, create that calendar. As we've discussed in the previous huge steps that we've talked about, you've kind of resetted yourself, you've reminded yourself of why you're doing what you're doing, you've gained some momentum. So now go back to the planning stage and figure out what you want to be doing every single week. One by one. It doesn't have to be planning for like weeks in advance, just 1 week at a time. What is your calendar going to be looking like? Follow the same steps as the ones I've mentioned in the previous part. And honestly, that's all I do when I fall off, when I feel down, when I feel unmotivated. I try and fix my mindset, reset, try and get back in the momentum and replan. That's all you need to be doing. The steps themselves, honestly, are really simple. But I think there's something super useful about that, because that means the process is something all of us can replicate. We can all fall off and then just pick it back up in the steps that I've described and then just go harder than ever. People ask me all the time, how do you maintain consistency? How do you maintain the motivation to keep going throughout the entire semester? And I honestly believe the reason some people are more consistent than others is only because they've learned they've built this habit of planning their weeks in advance and planning their everyday in a smart and flexible way. Because if you can get those organizational systems down, create the weekly task list, create a general calendar, the night before, specify what you're going to do in the next day, and vaguely follow it. Just treating the calendar as a guide. To maintain your habits, get back up when you fall off very easily, and then eventually become the person that you dream of becoming. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. I really hope that this video helped. I thought that this video was really basic, honestly. I wasn't gonna make it because I thought that people would find this obvious, but I get this consistency, how to plan my life questions so much over email that I just wanted to clarify that it's not hard. It's very simple. These are the simple steps, and it's not some magic formula or some magic app that's gonna help you change your life. It's just a bit of planning. That's all it is. If the video helped, please do leave a like, spam the comments, do all the usual stuff. Check these videos out. I'm gonna link some that I think will be useful specifically for you, especially that enjoyment one. I think enjoying the studying, enjoying the process is a big pushing factor when it comes to consistency as well. I think that's a very adjacent concept. Anyways, check that out. Click right now, actually. Right now. Okay, and thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.